Hello and welcome to the Slovak Snapshots podcast, created by Aktuality.sk. My name is Zorislav Poliak and I'm bringing you the most captivating and important stories from across Slovakia. Each week we'll dive into the headlines that matter, from breaking news to heartwarming stories. So, whether you're local or a global listener interested in Slovakia, we got you covered. Let's start with a brief overview of the news. The National Criminal Agency, NACA, hit a group that, according to investigators, tunneled over 70 million euros through the military secret service. Such an amount would cover the construction of a winter stadium in Bratislava. It is less than 2 weeks before the parliamentary elections, and the campaign is escalating to physical attacks. The biggest sensation was caused by the conflict between Igor Matovic and Robert Kaliňák. It is September 21st and you're listening to the Slovak Snapshots podcast. Don't miss our Slovak Spotlight, where we shed light on remarkable individuals shaping our society. Get ready for an informative and exciting ride. The Slovak elite politicians got into the fight.
Vypadni! Choď preč!
The former Prime Minister Igor Matovic and the former Minister of Interior Robert Kaliňák got into a conflict on Wednesday last week. The Smer party organized a press conference at which they called on the government to close the border with Hungary. At the same time, they criticized the government for handing over the document that allows migrants to move through the territory of the Slovak Republic. Igor Matovic interrupted the press conference with his large pickup, parked right behind the Smer politicians, and began to explain through the car's loudspeakers that the document for migrants was enacted by the Smer government. Meanwhile, dozens of Smer politicians surrounded and started damaging his car. Robert Kaliňák opened the car door and began to poke, pinch and hold Igor Matovic's hands. Matovic kept urging him to leave his car and not to seize his property, but former Minister of Interior tried to snatch the microphone from his hands. Politicians insulted each other and used a profound language. The whole conflict resulted in a kick that Matovic delivered to Kaliňák's chest and a punch that young politician Richard Gluck delivered to the head of the Oľano party, while Kaliňák was holding Matovic's hands. The Smer party board member Robert Kaliňák confirmed that he filed a criminal complaint against Igor Matovic in connection with the incident. The leader of the movement of ordinary people and independent personalities said that every judicial person, even a non-lawyer, can see who is the perpetrator and who is the victim. Matovic claims that he asked Kaliňák several times to get out of the car. It was a private space. He had no business in that car, he says. He called his left foot kick a necessary defense that solved the situation. The battle between the politicians took place only 2 weeks before the early parliamentary elections, which will take place on the 30th of September. The Slovak president has sued the leader of the Poles. The president, Zuzana Čaputová, has sued the head of the Smer party, Robert Fico, for spreading lies about her. The presidential office said 3 weeks before the elections, which may cause a sharp turn in foreign policy. The early parliamentary elections will take place in Slovakia on September 30th, with topics such as illegal migration, the war in neighboring Ukraine, or polarized society. The former Prime Minister, Robert Fico, has pledged to defend national interests and military support for Ukraine and oppose any sanctions against Russia that could harm Slovakia. In addition, he threatens to abolish the office of the Specialized Prosecutor, which prosecutes the most serious crimes, such as corruption or the organization of the criminal group for which Robert Fico was also accused. Zuzana Čaputová, the former human rights lawyer who won a 2019 presidential elections, has been a frequent target for Fico and his party. He has claimed, without proof, that she was a US puppet and stood for the interests of George Soros. The president is aware that as a public figure, she is obliged to take a higher level of criticism, but she is not obliged to put up with escalating public bullying and unwarranted accusations, Čaputová's office said in the statement. The president considers such rhetoric without a factual basis to be a deliberate abuse of freedom of speech in order to incite hatred against the person. Zuzana Čaputová has been a voice in favor of European integration, minority rights and supporter of Ukraine in its defense against Russia. She is the most popular Slovak politician. The president took a legal action against Fico earlier this year, after she said that she and her family received a death threat. Peter Sagan's last race will be the end of an era.
His form is pretty good. Is his form going to hold up though for the next 800 meters? Enough to deliver him the world title.
Peter Sagan, a Slovak whose name is synonymous with cycling excellence, has been a force to be reckoned within the world of competitive cycling. Known for his incredible sprinting abilities, unmatched charisma and ever-present smile, Sagan has captured the hearts of fans worldwide. The living legend announced at the beginning of the year that this season would be the last of his road cycling career. He revealed earlier this week that his last race on the road will be the Tour de Vendée. The one-day race will take place on October 1st in France. However, Sagan doesn't plan to go to rest right away. On the contrary, he wants to focus on new challenges in mountain biking. His goal is not only to successfully represent his team, Specialized Factory Racing, but also his own country at the next year's Olympic Games in Paris, where he could excel in the cross-country discipline. There is no surprise that Peter Sagan is one of the greatest Slovaks who ever lived, and the only one alive. He was a role model for thousands of little boys around Slovakia and the world for more than a decade. We will never forget how the Tour de France changed rules every year, so other racers had a chance as well. Farewell Terminator, the three-peat, or many favorites, Peter the Great.
Because one of the sport's great showmen has landed the world title. Peter Sagan from Slovakia is a world champion.
Never boring Slovakia.
Did you know that there are 120 castles and chateaux in Slovakia that you can visit? However, most of them are ruins. In terms of population, there is one castle for every 45,000 inhabitants, which puts Slovakia in the first place in this area. And there you have it, another the Slovak Snapshots podcast in the books. We hope you enjoyed this weekly adventure through the newscape of Slovakia. Remember, knowledge is power, so go ahead and impress your friends at the next gathering with your newfound facts. But hey, don't take yourself too seriously. Life's too short not to enjoy a good laugh. We'll be back next week with more stories that will keep you informed and entertained. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep sharing those lovely smiles.